Good evening, everyone. My name is Ilya from Porsche Center Oakville, and we're absolutely thrilled to have you here this evening for an exclusive live stream of the Porsche Taycan, as well as smart home technology and electrification. Before I introduce our talented group of panelists here, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping and speak to, obviously, unfortunately, we are in COVID times. So we are closed right now. The showroom is closed, as well as we are all more than 6 feet apart. Our wonderful crew from Steak and Sizzle Media Company as well. They're all masked and more than 6 feet apart as well. And of course, we all hope that you are being safe and being well at home, and we're thrilled that you could join us here today. We've got a lot of really interesting topics to talk about, so without further ado, we'll jump right into it and I'll do a quick introduction. To my right, I have Dominika Ventrella, who is a Porsche Pro and the sales manager here at Porsche Center Oakville, as well as I have Anthony DeLecce, who is the president of Intelligent Sound and Vision, who will walk us through a little bit about some of the interesting innovations that are coming through in terms of home design, garage design, and all of that great stuff.
Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you both for being here, and thank you all for tuning in at home. It's a wonderful night, and we're just thrilled that you are here and that we can share this experience with you. So we'll jump right into it. Dominika, if I could start with you, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
We'll turn the floor over to you. So you and I, obviously both Porsche fanatics, right? Have been lucky enough to drive nearly everything in the lineup, so to speak, of the modern lineup. And then in comes Taycan, which has, of course, been a game changer for the brand, but as well, we're seeing a major influx of electric vehicles in the marketplace in general. You and I have had the opportunity to drive almost sort of every Taycan in the lineup. And one of the things that you and I have talked about in depth is the age-old question of range anxiety. So I know there's a smile.
Range anxiety.
Yep.
You can't see the smile under my
mask.
mask.
So maybe you can just speak a little bit to range anxiety, you know, the myths and the misconceptions. We've experienced it, we've gotten over it, but for somebody who's viewing at home, you know, what are the things to think about and what are the considerations?
So range anxiety, it certainly is a real thing.
Right.
It is a myth, but it is a real thing.
Right.
And range anxiety definitely is one of the main reasons that people will still opt to not consider an electric vehicle as for their next vehicle purchase.
Okay.
And having driven a Taycan for a few months myself, I understand where that range anxiety comes from.
Sure.
It's a real thing. The first week driving the car, that was all that was racing through my mind. I was constantly looking down at the range. How many kilometers do I have left? Where am I going today? How far is that? Am I going to make it home?
The calculations,
all
right?
All those calculations. I was
course.
Driving myself nuts in my head, and I was like, oh my God, I understand this range anxiety. It's so real. And then you drive the car, and week after week and month after month, you get more comfortable and you realize that it is a myth.
Right.
It's not necessary to have range anxiety.
For sure.
And the average person drives less than 100 kilometers a day. And with the range of the Taycan, you know, even looking at summer and winter months, that is plenty to get most people through a day, multiple days, even if they happen to miss a day of charging. So
for sure.
It's as much as it's a real thing, and we do see it every day in our showrooms. It's a very popular topic that people are concerned about, and it's just going to take some time as people get comfortable driving the cars to realize that there's no need to have that range anxiety.
Yeah. There's really, and you know what, I must thank you personally, because you definitely helped me when I took my Taycan, and I know that, you know, I'd called you, and funnily enough for everyone in the audience, my first week with it, we went to the track, and you know, I remember asking you, you know, do I need to do the fast charging, and you know, all the questions, and you know, you walked me through, and I think you brought up such a great point of even slight modifications, and much like you would do with a gas vehicle, in terms of your driving habits, or maybe the amount of features that you have on can make a significant difference in terms of your range. So even I think within the settings between Sport, Sport Plus, and range mode, really, I mean, it's very customizable, and there's really very little to worry about.
For sure, and if you're in a situation where you're starting to run low on charge, or you know what your day or week looks like, and you want to be mindful of that, just as you mentioned, so the different drive modes, changing it from normal to Sport, Sport Plus, or even range mode, you will instantly see how that impacts the range. That number will change immediately on the display, even temperature settings. So if you are having a day where you feel a little bit at ease with what's left in the range, you can make those tweaks in climate and different driving modes to help that.
Absolutely. No, and again, so when we talk about range anxiety and batteries in general, I know another topic that's come up quite a bit is obviously battery degradation, right? This is a thing that I've heard from friends who've asked me, but well, aren't you worried in 6 months' time, and what about the winter? And so I've been lucky enough to drive my Taycan through the end of summer, into well through the winter. I haven't noticed any degradation of battery, but maybe you can enlighten us a little bit about that whole topic.
Battery degradation is also another topic of concern for people that has them apprehensive about it as well. So you have range anxiety, battery degradation. Porsche has been very conservative with all of their numbers that they've posted about the car, and you are not going to see any battery degradation on a Porsche within the first 7 to 8 years. Now, there's certainly things that you can do to help improve on that, and there's certainly things you can do to make that worse.
Right.
So there are things that you want to be mindful of, such as how often you use fast chargers, to what state that you charge the battery to every day. So for example, you're going to want to make sure that you don't charge the battery every day to more than 85%. And so there's a timer that you can set on the car to say that, make sure when I plug the car in, that it's going to stop charging at 85%. And so an excessive use of fast chargers is one of the most common ways to kind of have battery degradation become an
concerns.
issue.
So we shouldn't think of a fast charger as something to use as a sort of a daily piece.
No, you definitely don't want to use a fast charger daily. It's not what it's intended to. It's not intended to, be a regular method of charging your car.
Right. It doesn't replace your
No,
your
definitely not. The fast charger is designed to be used on lengthier trips. That's what the fast charger's intended use is. And so excessive use of it will certainly contribute to battery degradation, but it's incredible with what the numbers that Porsche has posted, that you shouldn't see anything within 8 years.
Well, true to Porsche form, I mean, everything is so thought out and the execution is so perfect, right? So we know them as a manufacturer would never really put out anything that is sort of a beta release. It really is thoughtful, and I know for me, I'm hitting nearly 20,000 kilometers on mine, which is nowhere near, that worry, but I'll be honest, just because of all the talk about it, I've caught myself wondering, am I getting, is the battery going to, and it's not, it's working fine every day in all conditions, and for me anyway, it's been quite lovely.
For sure, and you're also going to see, with your range as well, you touched earlier on the summer and winter months.
Right. The extreme heat and cold.
Yeah, the extreme heat and cold is certainly a characteristic of all electric vehicles where the range is going to be affected. In my experience driving the Taycan, I probably saw somewhere about, a 10% impact in the range in the extreme cold.
Of course.
We live in Canada. I'd love to say I wish I saw extreme summer. Definitely not the case. So I have not driven in extreme summer, but I know the equal is there for customers that I've talked to that have driven Taycan in really warm states where you see those extreme temperatures. So 10% is typically the loss in range that you'll see in extreme heat and extreme cold.
For sure, and I mean, very similar to a gas-powered vehicle as well, right? And the extreme temperatures can have an effect on fuel consumption. So similarly, I think we're kind of in the same space, so really nothing to worry about there. Well, we've talked about a little bit of the technical aspects, the battery, etc. I'd love to switch over a little bit into the fun side of things. Not that batteries aren't fun, but this is a Porsche after all, and you know that I'm a diehard 911 fan. I know, Anthony, you're a diehard 911 fan as well, as many of you are, I'm sure, at home. But one thing that I shouldn't say I was surprised by, because I definitely know not to be surprised by Porsche. It's going to be there, but the level of enjoyment. I mean, you take away the sound and you take away, I like a manual, and you take away those components, and yet, like, in there, it beats the heart of a Porsche, true and true. Like, it is a wonderful, wonderful experience.
It is, and that is truly one of the things that sets the Taycan apart from its competition in the electric vehicle world. With the Taycan, it is a Porsche first and an electric car second. And that's really what has allowed it to be so successful amongst Porsche enthusiasts, because you're absolutely right. The average Porsche customer, they love the performance behind the car, the sound, the feel, everything about that. And there was always a stigma that when you get an electric car, you're buying it just for function and efficiency and not so much for driving enjoyment. And that could not be any more wrong when it comes to the Taycan. You actually, the way the seat is positioned in the Taycan, you have a lower center of gravity than sitting in a 911.
Which is incredible.
And the vehicle is just absolutely planted. The handling is absolutely amazing. Yes, you don't get the sound that you would get in a naturally aspirated engine, but it can actually be made up with the Porsche electric sport sound feature.
So this is a brilliant thing, and we talked about this, and I know I have it on all the time in my car because it's so fun, for lack of a better term.
It is. It's fun. And once I had posted a video of what that sounds like,
right.
and people are like, "That's that sound," and they come and associate it with this jet turbine engine.
It should be fun. It's technology. It
right.
should be fun, right?
It is.
Exactly.
It is, and it's great. So there's different toggle switches within the car that you can program to turn on certain functions and features. And for me, that one is set right away. My default was I get in the car on, sports sound on, and we are good to go.
And you're good to go.
It's a lot of fun, and you really there is no driving enjoyment that's taken away from your conventional gasoline engine in the Taycan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't be more right. I think that the biggest thing is there's always a new element to discover too. Something when you remove that, to your point, the naturally aspirated sound or some of those elements that we've come to equate with a Porsche. You actually discover a whole new world of enjoyment, a whole new world of driving pleasure. And I think that I don't think that we've actually scratched the surface of how much fun we can have with this new world of technology. Anthony, as you said, it's technology. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyed and explored.
For sure.
And I think that one of the things that to me is amazing is it's very clear to me upon having driven now a Taycan for several months, the soul and the science of it is still very much a Porsche. The performance. They are,
and from the engineering of the car,
right.
from the suspension, steering, and the biggest one that the Taycan is known for is its repeated performance.
Right.
There were a lot of the panelists at the beginning when the car came out showing how often you could do launch and control,
right.
repeat it again,
right.
and the car is designed to take it,
right.
and that's where the Porsche DNA comes through in that car,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. So
there's no restriction to the performance. The car is meant to perform over and over again without any kind of degradation or damage to the battery.
That's amazing. Yeah. It's incredible. It's a real testament to the engineers, as you said, and to the entire Porsche ethos, I think, of performance.
We were speaking about that today. That you can't break them. That's
just
that's Porsche. You can't break them.
That's Porsche. It's,
right?
it's performance comes
right.
comes first.
Absolutely.
And they managed to do a fantastic job time and time again at keeping that reliability and performance together.
And we do love them for that. That's a great segue into, so this is the Taycan. We're looking here at a beautiful Turbo S model here, finished in carmine red. But we're starting to see a few new Taycan models come down the pipeline. I know we don't have any in the showroom this evening, but Dominica, maybe you can let the viewers know at home what to expect in the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are very excited later on at the end of this summer to welcome the Taycan Cross Turismo into the lineup. So the Taycan Cross Turismo is essentially designed for the individual that has a very active lifestyle.
Sure.
So the main differences with the Taycan versus the Taycan Cross Turismo are going to be its noticeable exterior look. So exterior and interior, it's designed to have more headroom, more legroom, more trunk space, and even having features designed for people with an active lifestyle, for example, being able to put a bike rack on the rear of the vehicle.
For sure.
So if you're an active cyclist, you wouldn't be able to put a bike rack onto the Taycan, but on the Taycan Cross Turismo, you certainly can.
Right.
So that's going to be when the Cross Turismo hits our showroom. That's certainly going to be what has it identify differently than a Taycan.
Right.
Is aside from the silhouette, also just its more rugged yet performance-oriented look.
Absolutely, and there's some aesthetic subtleties as well. I know in terms of wheel treatments, there's a few things that are going to be unique to the Cross Turismo.
Absolutely. So the Cross Turismo is going to have there's always going to be some options that are going to be unique to that model to allow it to remain distinguishably different from the regular Taycan. So it's going to have some different body design kits and wheel options that are going to be exclusive to the Cross Turismo only.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Well, until that one arrives, I'm hoping I could ask you to do a quick walk around for the guests at home with me.
Absolutely.
And we can take a look at this. And again, I believe this is a Turbo S.
This is a Taycan Turbo S that we have finished in the carmine red color. So if we start over here.
And I'll follow you back here. I'll let you lead the show, Dominica.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we look at the Taycan Turbo S, this particular car has some features such as the 21-in Mission E wheels. And it's a really cool feature that's been really popular where you can actually paint that lip matching to the exterior color. Yeah. People like to have a lot of fun with the Taycan. We've actually sold some really colorful combinations, which is great to see.
And there's some new color combinations coming in, if I'm not mistaken.
There's some really interesting colors coming out. So you're going to see on the Taycan, you're going to have the 2 different charge ports. So on the driver's side is where you're going to do your at-home charging. So this is the AC charger side. One really cool feature I like on this one is the power charge port cover. So with the swipe of a finger, the charge port will open, and that allows you to access where you would plug in your charger when charging at home or using a regular charger, a regular AC charger, and not a fast charger. So this particular car, if you'll see, has its noticeable sport design package that gives it a little bit more of an aggressive, sporty look.
I'm noticing some carbon accents throughout as well.
There are some carbon accents. So on the driver's side, as I was mentioning, you're going to do the AC charging, your at-home charging. When you're using a fast charger, this is where you're going to plug in the fast charger. So on the passenger side is where you'll use the fast charger. You'll see the plug looks a little bit different, set up to take that fast charging cable. And this side is where you're going to do your fast charging. So you got the 2 sides, 2 charge ports on either side of the vehicle. So yeah, you see this one, you see carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is a really popular option people like. And one thing that's interesting to know as well with the Taycan is there are certain options that will actually have an impact on the range.
Right.
So people are always looking at, what they can do to add more range to the vehicle. So anything that has to do with, so the wheels are one option for sure, the type of tires, so anything that will give the vehicle a higher rolling resistance, lower rolling resistance, will have an increase in the range.
So, Dominica, you're saying by me optioning the Mission E wheels, I may have decreased my range
You're going to reduce it very, very slightly, but right. Yeah, so things like wheels and tires will certainly have an impact on the range. And if we come and take a look at the rear of the vehicle, you notice that carbon fiber, so what's really nice on this one is you see that contrast in the body. This vehicle also has options such as the tinted tail lights. So typically you would see some of that red lighting run through the tail light. That red lighting is removed on this vehicle, giving it a smoked look. Right. This vehicle also has the model designation option painted in high gloss black.
I absolutely love that feature. And Dominica, you brought up an interesting point, which is people like to have a lot of fun, right? When they're building their vehicles, when they're going through the specs. Can you tell us a little bit maybe about the exclusive manufacturer program with
Yeah, absolutely. So with Porsche Exclusive Manufacturer, we are very proud to be one of 4 partners in Canada. And what that means is we do have a very high level of customization that we do on our vehicles. So with Exclusive Manufacturer, you can even add customization some more to the interior. So the easiest way I like to explain Exclusive Manufacturer is there's your regular options and sort of bells and whistles that people like.
Your typical colorways.
Yeah, exactly. And Exclusive Manufacturer is what really makes it your Porsche.
Right.
And that's customization that doesn't have to do so much with bells and whistles, having to do with trim, stitching, color of your dials, color of your seat belts, those types of things, what you want embossed in headrests, adding additional leather. So we have a lot of fun with our Exclusive Manufacturer program, and it's been great to build some really interesting show cars.
For sure. It's always, I know for me personally, just an overview of what are your clients asking? What are the main questions, and are there any builds that you've done recently that are super inspiring to you?
Yeah. We're actually working on a build right now, which is a custom residential property in Toronto. And
Okay.
in this property, one of my favorite aspects of it, it's in the design stage, is their garage.
Right.
Bringing the two together, this garage is just fantastic. Where it's got a rotating lift system with built-in wiring harnesses for charging stations.
Wow.
Right, and then we'll have in lounges built into the actual garage area space,
Sure.
with tower speakers for high fidelity sound, TVs to watch.
It's amazing how much garages have changed. They're definitely not. Garages always in the past was,
Right.
you have that junk that you gotta
Where they're
stuff in
dungeons.
your own,
Exactly.
You gotta go
Where
put it somewhere.
you
Let's
think
go
of-
put it in the garage.
Yeah, there was the dungeon, right?
It's
There was
the dungeon.
It's the dungeon,
Yeah,
totally.
absolutely.
And that's where it takes us into lighting control. Lighting control is just the way to
Sure.
alleviate all those issues. Garages tend to have no natural light. So how do we achieve that? Through lighting control and through lights that are sort of LED, brighten up the areas, and then they're controlled, and they're controlled at certain times of day. So you're not never walking into this dungeon anymore.
Right.
These are outfitted pretty
Do
well.
you see people liking putting sound in their garages as well?
100%.
Really?
Sound,
That's
TVs,
awesome.
that's sort of a big thing that we're doing all the time now.
So garages are essentially becoming like an extension of the home.
It really is.
Another room of
Truly
your house.
is an extension of the home. It's exactly right.
It makes
That's
sense. If
amazing.
if you're thinking you go through the length and the cost to design this dream home, why stop the garage? And especially if you're parking a Taycan in that
right.
space, you definitely want to celebrate it. I think I know for me one of the questions again is as I live downtown, obviously space is always a concern, and if you can't have, let's say, a multi-port garage, what are our options in terms of? I know you mentioned a few things about lifts and systems like that.
Yeah, so if I'll take you to that slide that I brought over.
That'd be
that's in the
great.
design stage right now, as you can see there. So this is, I believe it's 7 cars that they could put on this. So if you wanted the blue Porsche on the top row,
Right.
you would call for that car. It'll rotate around, bring you to the parking spot that's empty, and that'll drive right up your ramp.
Wow, that is an incredible build, by the way. That
Right,
looks
and then as you
remarkable.
drive away, or lights will shut down and everything is sort of controlled that way, and that's all energy management. Our builds get quite large. Keeping these builds green is very important to us as a company and our clients as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you'll see integrated lounge area in here where this particular car likes to smoke cigars. We're going to have exhaust fans for all that too as well. Yeah, so again, it's fun.
Right.
Yeah,
Right?
and you see, we see that you say the home energy management, and
Yeah.
that management of that energy seems to exist everywhere. So you see it in the homes,
Correct.
and in the vehicles we see it as well. So
Right.
there's actually a feature of the Taycan that you can option called an intelligent range manager. And I
There
thought
you
of that as you talked about kind of the home energy management.
right.
Where if you are, it's so intuitive that if you are planning a long road trip, you'll enter that destination and the car is actually going to set itself up to tell you where you need to stop along the way to charge, how long you're going to be sitting there charging,
Yeah,
and it's even going to adjust things like maximizing the speed you can drive
Yeah.
and adjusting your climate control settings to really optimize that drive.
Yeah,
so energy management
yeah,
is
exactly. Not only the energy management, but you just touched on geofencing of
Right.
allocation of where these charging stations are. And same thing with our builds, and that's what we try to do is try to create that lifestyle for our clients. For when they come home, things are actually happening for them
Right.
before they're fumbling around
Yeah.
to do things. So in this particular slide here that I'm showing you, this is a build that we did about 2 years ago, a system that we built here. This is an example of geofencing where we can set up an actual geographical area for when you leave the office, a block away from home, my system will be notified you're on your way home.
Wow. So everything is ready for
Really?
you when you
Correct.
arrive.
So what would happen is from this instance, your gates would open, your residential gates, allow you to come into the property. And then this particular house here has a 1-car garage door there. But as you come down that garage door, that's actually opened up already for you. Come down your ramp, lights automatically turning on and turning off right behind you. Again, no lights left on. Can you imagine going around a 15, 20,000 square foot house to see
always
every
turning your
light's on?
Right.
Where's the
on and
lights?
off, yeah.
Like my kids leave a light on everywhere.
No, well, I'm guilty
right?
for sure.
So that's what we're trying to achieve. Things happen. the building is smart enough to understand these things.
Sure.
And again, you have LED lighting. The illumination is amazing. So you're not walking. These are not dungeons. And then this is
far
from it.
Doesn't have a garage feel at all.
Not at all. So when you
just looks like another room of the house where the room for the cars, really.
What's interesting, it almost has a showroom feel, right?
It does, absolutely.
I think that's what the designers always try to, that's what inspires them.
Yeah. And do you get a question? I know it's a popular question for Porsche, so I'm curious to see if in your industry it's the same idea as, you also get a lot of people that see all this technology and start to wonder, what's it going to cost if all of this stuff breaks? And that's a common question with the Taycan is, what happens when the batteries do start to see that degradation after 8 years? It must cost a fortune to replace them, and you probably get that question as well.
All the time.
It's interesting now. When that happens, they're actually able to rebuild the battery.
Right. You were telling me about this. This is incredible.
Yeah, because that was one of the things I would commonly hear. Oh, how come you're not interested in an electric vehicle? Oh no, I don't want to. I can only imagine when the car gets a lot older. I like to keep my cars for a long period of time. I'm scared of the potential cost to replace the battery.
A fear of the unknown in some ways.
It is. It's exactly it. It's a fear of the unknown.
And we get that a lot as well.
Yeah, there's no need to have that fear.
Are these things going to work, right? That's the thing. But if it's in our industry, if it's designed well and it's brought to the table early enough for us, that is crucial. That is key for our success.
And this is it. I think both of you touched on a key topic here, actually, which is, if you build from the ground up with that infrastructure in mind, with that ethos, really the product is going to stand the test of time, right?
For sure.
In the case of a Porsche, the Taycan was years and years and years in development, and every corner was considered. Anthony, in your case, I'm looking at some of these builds. They're beyond incredible. They're both aesthetically stunning, quite honest, but clearly very pragmatic. And I think that a really interesting synergy here is, much like an exclusive manufacturer, your builds can be highly customized. It seems like no two are the same.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah,
exactly. Right from security to audio to video. Shading solutions is big. Right now, during the pandemic, we're actually bringing the boardroom home to the home office with real professional conferencing equipment, right? So there's a lot has changed, and really, when we first initial meeting with our clients is what do they want? What's their wish list all about?
What's the wish list?
What's the wish list? And we generally can do pretty much anything that they sort of imagine.
Yeah, make dreams come true.
We make dreams come true,
Absolutely.
Making dreams come true, one Porsche at a time.
I love it.
One home, one garage at a time, one backyard at a time.
What inspires myself and my staff is when somebody has that idea.
It's the vision, right? And it's executing on that vision, which I think is so important.
There's some serious vision that goes on to these, and we're just there along for the ride and giving them the tech.
No, I love that. And one thing to mention, obviously for our viewers at home is, this is a live segment and we will be answering a few questions at the end. So please feel free to type in your questions in the chat. I can't promise that we will get to all of them. However, we will absolutely respond to every one of them in detail. So please feel free to add those in. And both Anthony and Dominica, I'll put you both on the spot quickly, although not really. Anthony, I was going to ask, what's the most common question you get when starting to build a garage? And Dominica, I'll ask you a similar question in a second.
When they're building the garage, it's
so what's the typical first question?
Lighting control.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, lighting control. Again, going back to these garage spaces, but I think in general, the whole when we're working with the developer, builder, the designers, and architects, homeowner, the most common is lighting control systems. Yeah.
Right. It makes sense. It's really the foundation of the whole experience.
And then of course you have shading solutions and audio and video and all the theater rooms and all the other fun stuff, but lighting is generally the number one. Lighting is the number one thing that we do.
Wonderful. Yeah. And Dominica, I guess a similar question to you in terms of when you're talking to your guests and talking about the options. What's the most common question that comes up about the Taycan or electrification in general?
I'd probably say one of the most common questions would be surrounding electrification.
Sure.
I would say that probably one of the most common ones would have to do with what's the cost?
The cost,
to charge a Taycan.
I know I get that question all the time.
How much is it going to cost? Am I really saving any money over filling up with traditional gasoline? So the answer is absolutely. You are saving money compared to gasoline cars. So when I was driving a Taycan, I made sure to exclusively charge at home.
Sure.
I didn't want to charge here at the dealership. I thought, no, I want to be able to know truly what it costs, and I don't want to use any of the dealership's chargers.
Right.
And it all depends. And I live in the city of Toronto, so Toronto Hydro, I was charging every day.
Right. Yeah.
And probably for me, I was spending around $80 a month or so.
Right.
And my hydro bill went up. So when you look at $80 a month versus the conventional $80 a week, at
Sure,
least
you're lucky.
Sure.
if you're lucky,
Absolutely.
it certainly does cost a lot less
Right.
to
Interesting.
charge a Taycan compared to put fuel in.
It's true, and it's a great question. I mean, it's a very pragmatic question that a driver would be facing every day, depending on.
And the rates
commute.
obviously are going to vary. That was my
Sure.
scenario in Toronto with Toronto Hydro. And like I said, when you're using the timer feature on the car, that's one of the things that it's going to do. It's going to make sure that it charges, because obviously if you get home from work, there's a long window of time from when most people get home from work and when they leave in the morning. So the timer system is set up to optimize charging when the cost of electricity is at its lowest.
Wow.
So that is a feature that takes into consideration, okay, when are we going to charge the car? I know it's going to take me, call it 6 hours.
Sure.
She got home at 6 p.m. She's not leaving till 8 a.m. We're going to find that peak that will have the lowest cost to charge the car.
Well, that's phenomenal.
That's the exciting part for me, is all that sort of smart
Right,
stuff.
of course,
Yeah,
all
I
the
love
detail.
that stuff. Yeah.
No, totally. Well, and you know what? So I'd love to segue at that point into infrastructure. This is a question I know I get from friends who have asked, but where do you find the chargers, and how do you do, what can you use, and what's compatible, and all of these questions. And I'll say, Dominica, to your point, the first week maybe there was like, oh, well, is there a charger here, and is there a charger here? Now that I drive a Taycan, I see them everywhere.
Yeah, and was it there?
This is something if we, because I think it's one of those things that, and when you don't know, you don't know, and until you recognize it.
Right.
It really hits home that infrastructure is building quite considerably.
The infrastructure is expanding at a very rapid pace.
Right.
And if you look at the slide that we have up on the screen, you'll see from 2018 to 2020 how that charging network has expanded quite significantly, and it's only going to continue to do so at a very rapid pace. Most people, as I mentioned, you're going to do your charging at home. Right. So really where you're going to find you'll need to use a charger, whether it's a fast charger or a regular fast charger, is going to be in longer distances, or maybe say you stay at, most hotels are set up now as well, but let's say you do stay somewhere for a couple nights where there is no charger, and then you just want to make sure you give yourself a top up to get home.
Sure.
So the charging network with Porsche, you get 3 years of charging inclusive using the Electrify Canada network.
Right.
So Porsche has partnered with Electrify Canada as their charging partner.
Sure.
Electrify Canada stations, there are currently 22 operational at the moment, and they expect that network to be at 32 by the end of the year.
Wow.
And the Electrify Canada stations are along the major highway routes. So they span right from the west to east coast, and those are the 350 kilowatt chargers.
Wow,
so those are the real fast chargers.
Real fast chargers.
Where you can actually get 75% charge in only 22 and a half minutes.
That's impressive.
Wow.
So those are the charging network that Porsche has inclusive for 3 years. There are a few other very popular networks that people do tend to use more commonly.
There's some options.
Just because Electrify Canada is along the major routes.
Of course, on the major routes,
So the brands that people will commonly hear are Flow, Charge Point. I know when I used a fast charger, Flow seemed to be the network that
is the most prevalent.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you'll find Flow at a lot of Canadian Tire locations, whether it's gas station or Canadian Tire. They have the 50 kilowatt chargers that are available as their fast charger. And then now Petro-Canada has their network that they have 150 kilowatt chargers. So charging is not finding a charger is really not an issue anymore.
I will say I'm really impressed. You know those stats off the top of your head, which is
because
super incredible.
We get asked them all the time, right?
Yeah.
And that's another common question. Okay, let's say I need to use a fast charger. Like, how long am I going to be there?
Right.
And it really depends. So it really depends what type of fast charger you use. Like I said, if I take the Flow charger, which is the 50 kilowatt, so that would be the longest, just to give a worst case scenario. And I would say you're probably going to be, to get you going, so to get yourself, call it like 30% of range, would be about half an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really not bad at all.
Not at all.
And I found it was great. In that half an hour, you just kind of get on your device and you kind of catch up on things, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me get to these emails.
Yeah, exactly. Catch
Make
up
a
on
couple
your emails.
phone calls
Right.
of people that
Cancel
I've been
meeting.
meaning to call and catch up
Absolutely.
with. And so, you know, at first I thought, is this going to be like a daunting task to sit here
Right.
for half an hour? But
Right.
it's actually not.
No. It's almost a little break.
Yeah, it's not at all.
Yeah.
So.
Are your clients, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry, Andy, after you, please.
Are your clients worried about putting charger stations for retrofit into their existing homes?
That was the question I was actually going to ask. Thank you, because Dominica, you said obviously you'd like to, ideally we want to avoid overuse of fast chargers, and ideally you'd like to charge at home whenever possible.
Yeah, you definitely, the Taycan isn't actually for everyone.
Right.
And the only reason I say that is what your capabilities are to be able to charge is going to be a big factor in whether or not a Taycan makes sense for you.
Right.
So for example, if you live in a condominium, newer condominiums are actually being built now with charging receptacles.
Right.
But if you live in an older condominium where they don't have chargers, some of the condo corps won't allow it. So if you're in a situation where you live downtown, you live in a condo corp won't allow it, then a Taycan is just not going to work for you. But retrofitting your home isn't difficult. Most customers that I would say probably almost 100% of our customers that buy Taycans have to get their home set up. So they're new to electric cars.
It's very easy.
Yeah, and it's not difficult. And I went through it when I had mine.
I was going to say, you went through it. So.
You know, I was in a new home. I was in a new construction build, and I had been in the home for a few months. And I said, okay, I want to drive a Taycan, and it was very easy to get the the reciprocal installed in my house to be able to plug in a charger.
Yeah.
And this is something a guest could actually just reach out in terms of at the store level, could speak to you or one of our sales executives about setting up.
Yeah, so how it's going to work is if you come in to buy a Taycan, we have the home charging portal that our Porsche certified sales executives have access to, and what they'll essentially do is set up a home check for you. So with the home check, the qualified service provider will come to your home and first do an assessment to see what your needs are. And that's another question. Oh, what's it going to cost me to get an electrician at my house to get my house set up? And the cost can vary because it really depends on the age of the home, where that charger is going in relation to where you're going to park the car, how many amps are available on your panel.
Of course.
So you're going to need a dedicated 50 amps for this charger. So for example, I know when I was in the pre-construction phase of my house, knowing that an electric car would be in my future, I made sure I upgraded my panel to a 200 amp panel. So the service provider will come to your home and do a no charge assessment. So they will be able to let you know what those costs are, and you can decide at that time if you want to go with the qualified service provider, and they'll assess what your needs are based on your home.
Wow, so it's totally full service. And Anthony, I think you brought up a great point, which is if you are considering a build from the ground up, then asking that question right on the front end is most important,
100%.
right?
Yeah, I think every house right now should be equipped with this, or at least roughed in.
Absolutely,
basically.
absolutely.
So that's a thing that we constantly say to our clients. If you're not sure about something, run a wire, rough it in. It'll save you thousands and thousands of dollars.
Absolutely, versus having to do that after the fact.
Correct.
I was very fortunate where my garage is and where my panel was.
Yeah, usually
but
they're
for
like
some
that.
people,
Right.
it's not so straightforward, and that's where the majority of the cost actually comes from.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I can't thank you both enough for being here this evening. I think we've touched
pleasure.
on quite a lot of awesome topics here in terms of the Taycan and electrification and home technology, and really the future in general. I mean, this is just the start of it, and it's incredible to be here, obviously with the Porsche brand and leading the way that way. We are going to segue over to our audience here and take a look at a few of the questions that have come through. I know one of them, I'm looking over at Rachel, our wonderful producer from Steak and Sizzle Media Company, who has given me the first question, which is actually targeted to Dominica around back to the customization program. And one of that question is, are there exclusive colorways to Taycan specifically that are not available in other Porsche models?
There are like exterior colors?
Yes, exterior colors too. I think
Yes.
we saw frozen berry, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
right now there is, the frozen berry offering is coming. It's not exclusive to Taycan anymore, but we have the blue.
Right, oh yes, of course.
We have the blue that is the exclusive to the Taycan. So there are some colors that they do have exclusive to Taycan.
Until
just
they make
to keep
their
it
way.
unique.
Of course,
so,
of course.
Yes, there are, yeah.
Well, I love it. All right, wonderful. And we'll turn back to Rachel here for a quick second. I think another one of the questions, oh yes, okay, so this is actually a very pragmatic question, a good one. Winter tires still advisable on Taycan despite the four-wheel drive, right? This is a thing we recommend.
Yeah, despite the four-wheel drive system, the four-wheel drive system, the all-wheel drive system isn't what's going to get you stopping. It's
Sure.
the tires,
Right.
and that's a misconception around. Oh, it's all-wheel drive. I don't need winter tires. With our Canadian climate, I always recommend winter tires.
Absolutely.
In our climate, it's not so much even about the snow. Is the tire, the compound of the tire is not designed to stop in the same way once the temperature falls below 7 degrees Celsius. So really anything less than 7 degrees Celsius, and you should be using a winter tire.
Right, and really it is your only contact to the road, and with such a high performance vehicle, you want to make sure that your tires actually match that level of performance as well. Well, wonderful, thank you for that. And Rachel, let's see if there's any other questions coming down the pipeline here. All right, so we're talking about any innovative features specifically to Taycan. So I wonder, were there any technological elements that may have been introduced, let's say with the Taycan, or something that we've seen maybe distilled from other Porsche products that might be just
yeah, so technology is really what the heart of this car is all about. And so some of the features that technology-wise is you have the kind of adaptive cruise control.
Right.
And InnoDrive. So InnoDrive is a feature that will use, it's predictive. So it's going to look at upcoming road signs, and it actually has the ability to adjust the vehicle's speed automatically based on acknowledging even traffic signs and speed signs. So it's able to, it uses the front camera from the adaptive cruise control camera to predict what's coming up along the road ahead and make those adjustments accordingly.
Oh, that is incredible. That is really something else. And all right, so we have, so Dominic, I know you touched on this previously, but I think
very good question. Again, one of the common questions, and I'll touch on that again, absolutely. So AC charging was the question asked, AC charging times. So AC charging is essentially the regular charger, anything that's not a fast charger. So you cannot use a regular 110 volt plug at home. So you do have to have the NEMA plug reciprocal installed at your home. That's a 220 volt plug. So if you're using that 220 volt NEMA plug, you're probably looking at around 8 hours to get a full charge. In terms of the question about the DC charging, so AC is the regular charging at home. DC, direct current, that's the fast charger. So the fast charger time is going to depend on what fast charger that you are using. So again, the Electrify Canada one is the Porsche partnered,
the preferred
provider. So those ones, the super fast ones that are 350 kilowatt, again, that will get you 75% of charge in 22.5 minutes. Then if we go down to the next speed, the most common one is the Petro-Canada network, which is 150 kilowatts. That one will get you, I think, with 0 to 100, and you're not going to sit there and get 100% charge, but the stat on that is you'll get 100% charge in about 40 minutes. So you're not getting 100%. Most people, I call it, you need to get on your way. You need enough to get home or carry on with the day. So I would say if you're at a Petro-Canada and you can find a 150 kilowatt charger, call it 20 minutes and you're on your way.
Which is incredible if you think about it.
Which is incredible. I mean, and then the
really
slowest speed fast charger that's available is the Flow network with the 50 kilowatt charger. And again, that one to get a full charge is an hour and a half, but you're not going to sit there to get a full charge. So to get on your way is that one that I was saying half an hour. So half an hour time and you're sort of on your way to get yourself, 75 to 100 kilometers of range. So enough to get you back going with your day.
Incredible. So the technology really is there and growing, clearly.
It is, and so that's the difference with the network. There's different chargers that are available at the different speeds.
That's amazing. I'm looking over here. Oh, we're getting definitely very technical here in terms of amp requirements. So 50 versus 100. Now, I don't know if we can speak to this necessarily right here.
So I know with the, I can speak to the 50 amp requirement. So that is the requirement on the panel to have the NEMA 1450 reciprocals, the 220 volt plug. That 100 amp question I know is coming from, it's a change in the new model year.
Okay.
So I don't have that specific information yet, but it's a very, very good question. So I know the team has the contact information, and we'll certainly get the answer to that question.
Absolutely. Any questions that do come through, ladies and gentlemen, just know that we will get back to you in detail. Of course, if certain questions come through, we know quite a few of them are coming in. We can't answer them all in the time frame that we have. However, we'll answer 2 more, and actually these are quite.
But yeah, that was a good question.
One. Very
and you want to make
actually.
sure you have. And what I just can't say to add to that question, if it helps give a bit of an answer as best as I possibly can, is you want to have the right amp requirement, because if you don't, that's when you can see, the few, you see the breaker. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're not constantly tripping that panel, and that's why you want to make sure you have the right requirements, even obviously just from a safety and fire hazard.
Yeah,
of course.
That has to be assessed.
I'm looking over, Anthony is shaking his head there.
He's like, absolutely. There's a fire hazard there that you want to make sure your panel has enough amps to support what that the NEMA reciprocal puts through to that panel.
Right. Of course, so making sure that that's actually, the infrastructure is there and that it's working properly. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. We have two final questions here, both very similar. Actually, Anthony, one to you, which is if somebody wanted to get in touch with you in terms of consulting on a build, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Email or phone numbers, we'll have that, send them all out to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we come and do free consultations too as well. And yeah, that's no problem. We'll get back to them with that.
Wonderful. And Dominica, no surprise, similar question to you in terms of anybody who is interested in having a consultation regarding the Taycan or any of the electrified vehicles that are coming down the pipeline from Porsche. Is the best way just to reach out to yourself or to another sales executive in the store?
Well, we have a few different methods that are available at the moment, obviously just trying to work within the climate of COVID.
Of course.
So as much as we would love to welcome everyone into our showroom, at the moment we are currently open by appointment only and with a limited capacity. So if you do feel comfortable to come into our showroom, you would please call or email into the store to make an appointment with a Porsche sales executive.
Of course.
If you don't feel comfortable coming into the store at the moment, then we certainly invite you to take advantage of Policaro Access. So we do have virtual solutions that are available to you at this time. So we can do a lot of things virtually with you, with the technology that we've talked about today. So we can certainly do vehicle walkarounds, with the use of our devices to help give you that up close and personal look. We can do a lot of consultation over the phone with platforms such as Zoom or Microsoft Teams to have a bit of a face-to-face virtual consultation. So as much as we'd like to welcome you in store, we have Policaro Access that allows us to have a virtual option available.
Wonderful. So many ways, and of course we know if a guest were to decide to come in for a test drive, of course all vehicles fully sanitized, everything in terms of...
Absolutely. At this moment, we are not accompanying guests with test drives, just to be making sure that our staff and customers are safe. It's our number one priority. So we're able to go on the test drive, and we have strict sanitization measures in place to make sure that when the vehicles come back, they are sanitized.
Wonderful.
And it is encouraged to leave the windows open during the test drive as well.
Wonderful. Well, Anthony, thank you so much. Dominica, thank you so much.
My pleasure. It was great.
My pleasure.
Really it was nice chatting with you both.
Yeah. Likewise. And for everyone at home, again, thank you so much for joining us for this exclusive live stream event. We hope you're all keeping well and safe at home, and we look forward to welcoming you to the next one. Until then, stay safe and have a great evening.